The silver Lamborghini screamed through the winding roads of Malibu Hills like a missile seeking destruction. Leonardo Hayes gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned bone white, his rational mind warring with the desperate plan crystallizing in his head. At 29, he commanded a tech empire worth billions, graced magazine covers, and lived in a penthouse that overlooked the Pacific. None of it mattered when your mother had just announced your engagement to a stranger over breakfast. That wedding is set for December, darling. Priscilla Winters will complement our digital holdings beautifully with her father's media empire. Helena Hayes had delivered the news as casually as commenting on the weather, completely ignoring that Leonardo had never even held a proper conversation with his supposed bride-to-be. Now, as the Pacific Coast Highway stretched endlessly before him, he spotted salvation in the form of orange construction cones and fresh asphalt. His plan formed in crystalline clarity. Stage an accident. Claim memory loss. Time to escape this matrimonial prison his mother had constructed. 3 blocks from the construction site, Moonbeam Caf sat like a refuge from reality. Catalina rose, wiped down the espresso machine for the 3rd time that morning, her dark curls escaping the messy bun she'd attempted at dawn. At 26, she split her time between serving overpriced lattes to tech executives and creating graphic designs that nobody seemed interested in buying. "Kat, you're going to wear the chrome off that machine," Jasmine Chen called from behind the register. Her best friend and roommate had been trying to lift her spirits all morning after another freelance client had vanished without payment. "Need to keep busy," Catalina replied, unconsciously touching the small scar above her left eyebrow. The nervous habit had developed after her mother's death from cancer. "If I stop moving, I might actually think about how behind I am on rent." The screech of tires cut through the morning air like a blade. Then came the sickening crunch of metal against concrete, followed by the terrible silence that only follows. Disaster. Both women rushed outside to see a silver sports car wrapped around a light pole, steam rising from its crumpled hood like incense from an altar of destruction. "Call 911, Catalina shouted, already sprinting toward the wreckage. Her mother had been a nurse before cancer claimed her, and some instincts ran deeper than fear. The driver slumped over the wheel, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Even unconscious and disheveled, he was devastatingly handsome. Dark hair fell across aristocratic features that belonged on Renaissance sculptures rather than crumpled in a car wreck. "Sir, can you hear me?" Catalina gently touched his shoulder, checking for obvious injuries. His expensive suit was torn, and his watch probably cost more than her annual rent. But right now, he was just another person who needed help. Leonardo's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, he forgot about his carefully planned deception. The woman leaning over him had the kindest brown eyes he'd ever seen, framed by long lashes and filled with genuine concern. Her hair smelled like vanilla and coffee, and when she smiled with relief at seeing him conscious, something shifted in his chest, like tectonic plates realigning. "Thank God you're awake," she breathed. "Try not to move too much. The ambulance is coming." Leonardo started to respond, then remembered his performance. He blinked slowly, as if struggling to focus through fog. What happened? Where am I? The lie fell from his lips like a stone into still water, creating ripples that would change everything. By the time paramedics arrived, a crowd had gathered. Leonardo played his part perfectly, acting confused and disoriented, while Catalina held his hand and answered questions about what she'd witnessed. She climbed into the ambulance without being asked, something that surprised even her. "I don't know why I did that," she confessed to Jasmine later over the phone from the hospital waiting room. "He's obviously wealthy, probably has people who handle these situations. But he looked so lost when they were asking about emergency contacts." At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Dr. Michael Torres examined Leonardo with growing puzzlement. "Scans show minimal trauma, but you're presenting classic signs of retrograde amnesia." "Can you tell me your name?" Leonardo stared blankly. "I don't know. It's like there's a wall in my mind and I can't see past it." That's when Helena Hayes arrived, like a force of nature wrapped in Chanel and fury. She swept into the emergency room with the entitlement of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. Demanding answers from every medical professional in sight, My son has responsibilities, she declared to Dr. Torres. Board meetings, engagement announcements to the press. This amnesia business is highly inconvenient. From his hospital bed, Leonardo watched his mother treat his condition like a scheduling conflict rather than a medical emergency. Through the partially open door, he could see Catalina in the waiting area, still there, despite having no obligation to stay. She was arguing with a nurse about visiting policies, her protective instincts. Clearly engaged. Mrs. Hayes, Dr. Torres said carefully, memory recovery cannot be rushed. Your son needs a stress-free environment to heal properly. Stress-free? Lena's voice could have shattered glass. He's heir to a $10 billion company. Stress is his natural habitat. That's when Catalina appeared in the doorway. She had overheard the conversation and seen how Leonardo's heart rate spiked on the monitor whenever his mother spoke. Something protective flared in her chest, the same instinct that had made her run toward a car crash instead of away from it. "Excuse me," she said, stepping into the room with more confidence than she felt. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." Helena turned, taking in Catalina's coffee-stained apron and second-hand jeans with obvious disdain. "And you are?" Catalina moved to Leonardo's bedside, taking his hand in hers. She felt him tense, then relax as he realized what she was doing. "I'm his girlfriend." Catalina rose. "Leo and I have been together for 8 months. The lie hung in, the air like a live wire, crackling with dangerous potential. Helena's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her shock, while Dr. Torres looked between them with professional interest. "Girlfriend?" Helena's voice could have frozen hellfire. "Leonardo has never mentioned any girlfriend. He kept it private," Catalina said smoothly, her thumb tracing circles on Leonardo's hand. "Leo wanted to be sure before introducing me to his family." "You know how he is about his personal life?" Leonardo squeezed her hand gratefully. "Cat," he said, his voice uncertain. "Is that really you? Everything is so foggy, but your voice feels familiar." The way he said her name, like it was something precious, made Catalina's heart skip. For a moment, she almost forgot this was all pretense. "I'm here," she said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." Helena's eyes narrowed as she studied this unexpected development. Her son, the careful, controlled heir she had groomed for greatness, apparently had a secret girlfriend who looked like she shopped at thrift stores and worked service jobs. "How fascinating," Helena said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "And what do you do for a living, Miss Rose?" "I'm a graphic designer," Catalina replied, lifting her chin. "I also work part-time at Moonbeam Caf to pay the bills while I build my client base." "How entrepreneurial."
Oh.
The word dripped with condescension. "And where did you meet my son?" Catalina's mind raced. She needed a story that would explain how someone like her would meet someone like Leonardo. At the cafe, actually. He came in one morning looking exhausted, ordered 6 shots of espresso. When I asked if he was trying to achieve enlightenment or a heart attack, he laughed for the first time in weeks. She was surprised by how easily the story came, as if it were a memory rather than fiction. He kept coming back, always ordering something different, always making me laugh. One day he asked if I wanted to get dinner somewhere that didn't serve coffee, and I said yes. Leonardo watched her spin their fake history with growing admiration. She was quick on her feet and had instinctively understood exactly what would appeal to his character while annoying his mother. 8 months, Helena repeated slowly. "That would mean you've been dating since January." "January 15th, Catalina said without hesitation. "It was raining, and he shared his umbrella with me when I got off work. Very romantic for a first date." Dr. Torres cleared his throat. "If I may interrupt, Mr. Hayes needs rest." Familiar faces and voices can actually aid in memory recovery, so having his girlfriend here might be beneficial. "His girlfriend," Helena repeated, as if testing the words for poison. How convenient that she suddenly appeared just when Leonardo needs support. "I've been here the whole time," Catalina said firmly. "I saw the accident happen and rode in. The ambulance with him. I called you from his phone because the emergency contact was labeled Mother for emergencies only, which seemed pretty clear." Helena's lips pursed. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone she considered beneath her notice. Well, Miss Rose, I suppose we'll be seeing much more of each other during Leonardo's recovery. I suppose we will, Catalina replied evenly. After Helena finally left to make urgent phone calls about postponing various meetings, Catalina found herself alone with Leonardo. The pretense could drop for a moment, and the weight of what she had just committed to settled over her like a heavy blanket. I can't believe I just did that, she said, sinking into the visitor's chair. I lied to your mother about being your girlfriend. Your mother, who probably has people investigated for fun. Leonardo studied her face, noting the way she worried her bottom lip and how her hands trembled slightly. You didn't have to do that. You could have just walked away after the ambulance arrived. I could have, Catalina agreed. But I didn't. Like the way she was talking about you, like you were a business asset instead of her son who just got hurt. That's fairly accurate, actually, Leonardo said with a rueful smile. In Helena's world, everything is about family image and company. Value, including who I marry. Is that why you were driving like you were running from something? Leonardo's silence was answer enough. Catalina leaned forward, her voice gentle. The amnesia isn't real, is it? He should have been alarmed that she had seen through his act so quickly. Instead, he felt relief at having someone who understood. How did you know? You remembered my name immediately, and your reactions to emotional stimuli are too appropriate. Plus, you've been watching me like you're trying to figure out my angle, which suggests your analytical abilities are perfectly intact. You're very observant. It's an occupational hazard of customer service. You learn to read people quickly. Catalina stood up, gathering her purse. Look, I don't know what you're running from, but I can't keep up this charade. Your mother's going to see right through me the moment she starts digging. Wait, Leonardo said quickly. Please, just let me explain. Something in his voice made her pause. Despite his obvious wealth and privilege, there was genuine desperation there. The kind that came from being trapped with no way out. This morning, my mother informed me that I'm engaged to Priscilla Winters, heiress to the Winters Media Group. I've met her exactly 3 times, never alone, and apparently we're supposed to be married by Christmas. Catalina's mouth fell open. An arranged marriage? In 2024? Strategic alliance disguised as romance? Leonardo corrected.
Yes.
It's what my family does. Everything serves the business, including me. The pain in his voice was real, and Catalina found herself sitting back down. So you decided to fake amnesia to get out of it. It seemed like a good plan until my mother showed up with her private investigators and unlimited resources, Leonardo said. Now I'm trapped in my own lie, and I've dragged you into it. Catalina was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. Finally, she looked up at him with those kind brown eyes that had first caught his attention. What if we didn't see this as being trapped? She said slowly. What if we saw it as an opportunity? An opportunity for what? A smile played at the corners of her mouth, transforming her face from pretty to radiant, to give the greatest performance of our lives. Your mother wants to believe you have a girlfriend who's completely wrong for you. So let's give her exactly that, but make it so convincing that she can't prove otherwise. Leonardo stared at her, hardly daring to hope. You'd do that? You'd pretend to be my girlfriend, to help me escape an arranged marriage? I'd do it to help someone escape a situation they didn't choose, Catalina corrected. Besides, it might be fun. Time you did something just because it might be fun? Leonardo couldn't remember. In his world, everything was calculated, planned, optimized for maximum benefit. The concept of doing something purely for enjoyment was foreign to him. There's one condition, Catalina continued. If we're going to do this, we do it right. Full commitment, believable backstory, the works. I won't be some half-hearted performance that falls apart under scrutiny. Deal, Leonardo said immediately. But Catalina, you need to understand what you're signing up for. My mother will investigate your entire life. She'll find every embarrassing moment, every financial struggle, every reason you're supposedly not good enough for me. Catalina's chin lifted with determination. Let her look. I've got nothing to hide except the truth about us. And Leonardo, your mother is about to learn that underestimating people is a dangerous game. As she left the hospital that evening, Catalina couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just taken a turn towards something extraordinary. She had no idea that across town, Helena Hayes was already making phone calls to her favorite private investigator, or that Leonardo was staring at the ceiling, wondering if he had just found his salvation or his destruction. The game had begun, and neither of them knew yet that what started as pretense would become the most real thing in either of their lives. Catalina's alarm shrieked at 6 a.m., same as every morning, but today felt different. Today she had to figure out how to convince one of the most powerful families in California that she was dating their heir. She stared at the ceiling of her tiny studio apartment, mentally cataloging everything she knew about Leonardo Hayes from gossip magazines and tech blogs. Jasmine appeared with 2 cups of coffee, her black hair still messy from sleep. So let me get this straight. You're fake dating? A billionaire to help him escape an arranged marriage. When you say it like that, it sounds insane, Catalina groaned, accepting the coffee gratefully. It is insane. But also kind of romantic. Jasmine settled cross-legged on the bed. What's your plan? Catalina could answer. Her phone rang. Unknown number, but somehow she knew who it would be. Good morning, sunshine. Leonardo's voice was warm through the speaker. Ready for your first day as my girlfriend? Define ready, Catalina said, suddenly conscious that Jasmine was listening. To every word with obvious delight, I'm being discharged this morning. My mother expects you to pick me up, take me home, and generally act like someone who's madly in love with me. Your mother expects me to take you home. To your place or mine. There was a pause. I hadn't thought about that. My penthouse has security cameras and staff who report everything to Helena. Your apartment would be more private. Catalina looked around her cramped studio with its second-hand furniture and bathroom door that didn't quite close properly. Leonardo, my entire apartment could fit in your walk-in closet. Perfect. Helena will hate it. Despite everything, Catalina found herself smiling. You're enjoying this way too much. For the first time in years, I'm making decisions my mother can't control. Yes, I'm enjoying it. 2 hours later, Catalina stood in the hospital lobby wearing her best dress, which still looked like something from a discount store. She had tried to tame her curls and applied makeup with the careful precision of someone who couldn't afford to make mistakes. Leonardo appeared in a wheelchair pushed by a nurse, and Catalina's breath caught. Even with a bandage on his forehead and wearing hospital scrubs, he was stunning. But more than that, the way his face lit up when he saw her made something flutter in her chest. Cat, he said, and the genuine warmth in his voice almost made her forget they were acting. She moved to him without thinking, cupping his face gently and examining the bandage. How are you feeling? Any headaches or dizziness? Better now that you're here, he said, catching her hand and pressing it to his cheek. The gesture was so natural, so tender, that Catalina felt her heart skip. For a moment, they weren't performing. For anyone. They were just 2 people who had found something unexpected in each other. Mr. Hayes, a crisp voice, interrupted. Helena appeared with a man in an expensive suit. This is Thomas Mitchell, our family security consultant. He'll be overseeing your protection during your recovery. Thomas Mitchell had the sharp eyes of someone who made his living finding other people's secrets. He studied Catalina with the intensity of a scientist examining a specimen. Miss Rose, he said, extending his hand. I've heard so much about you. Have you? Catalina shook his hand firmly. That's interesting, since Leo and I have been very private about our relationship. Of course, though, it's surprising that someone so close to Mr. Hayes managed to stay completely off our radar. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Catalina felt Leonardo tense beside her. Maybe your radar isn't as good as you think, she said sweetly. Or maybe Leo is better at keeping secrets than you give him credit for. Helena's eyes glittered with something that might have been approval or calculation. Well, since you're so devoted to my son's privacy, I'm sure you won't mind if Thomas conducts a routine background check, just to ensure Leonardo's security hasn't been compromised. Background check away, Catalina said with more bravado than she felt. Oh, I should warn you, my life is spectacularly boring. You might die of excitement. As they left the hospital, Leonardo, leaning on her for support that was half genuine. Half performance, Catalina could feel Helena's eyes boring into her back like laser beams. "Oh, that went well," Leonardo murmured as they reached her ancient Honda Civic. "Your mother's investigator is going to tear my life apart," Catalina whispered back, helping him into the passenger seat. "Thomas is thorough, but he's looking for financial impropriety, criminal history, connections to competitors. He's not looking for someone who's exactly what she appears to be." "And what do I appear to be?" Leonardo studied her profile as she started the car. "Genuine, kind, completely unimpressed by money or status. Everything my mother thinks is wrong for me." The drive to her apartment felt surreal. Here was this man, who commanded boardrooms and graced magazine covers, folding his long legs into her tiny car with its coffee-stained seats and radio that only worked on AM stations. "This is it," Catalina said as they pulled up to her building, converted warehouse in the arts district that had seen better decades. Leonardo looked around the neighborhood with genuine interest rather than judgment. Street murals covered brick walls and small galleries nestled between vintage clothing stores and organic juice bars. "I like it," he said. "It feels alive." Catalina's studio was on the third floor, accessed by stairs that creaked ominously. She unlocked the heavy metal door with growing embarrassment at what he was about to see. The space was tiny but carefully organized. A graphic design setup occupied one corner, vintage concert posters and her own artwork covered the walls, and plants clustered around the single large window that looked out onto the street. It was cramped and quirky and completely her. "It's perfect," Leonardo said, and she could tell he meant it. "You don't have to lie. I know it's not what you're used to. That's exactly why it's perfect." He moved to her desk, studying the designs scattered across its surface. "These are incredible. Why aren't you working for a major firm?" Catalina shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "Big firms want safe, corporate. These are too emotional, I guess." Leonardo picked up a poster design for a local theater production. Bold colors and flowing typography captured the passion of the play in a way that made you want to buy tickets immediately. "They're not too emotional," he said quietly. "They're honest." That's terrifying to people who built their careers on hiding the truth. Something in his voice made her look at him more closely. For a moment, the mask of the wealthy heir slipped, and she saw someone who understood what it felt like to have your authentic self rejected by the world you were supposed to fit into. Before she could respond, there was a sharp knock at the door. Through the peephole, Catalina saw a woman in designer clothes holding a clipboard and looking deeply unimpressed with the building. "Helena's advanced scout," Leonardo said grimly. "The performance continues." Catalina opened the door to find a perfectly groomed woman who looked like she'd never set foot anywhere that didn't have valet parking. "Miss Rose. I'm Patricia Whitman from Hayes Family Services. Mrs. Hayes asked me to coordinate Mr. Leonardo's care during his recovery." "Thoughtful," Catalina said, not moving from the doorway, "though I think Leo and I have things well in hand." "Of course, but given the severity of his condition, Mrs. Hayes feels it would be prudent to ensure he has access to proper medical support. Nutrition specialists, private security." "What Leo needs," Catalina interrupted, "is rest and familiar surroundings. It's not an army of strangers treating him like a museum exhibit."
Damn.
From behind her, Leonardo's arms slipped around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. The gesture was possessive and protective, and it sent heat racing through her veins. "Kat's right," he said, his voice still carrying traces of confusion. "Too many new faces make me anxious. I feel safe with her." Patricia's smile was sharp as a blade. "How fortunate that you found someone so... devoted. I'll be sure to inform Mrs. Hayes that you're in capable hands." After Patricia left, Catalina found herself still pressed against Leonardo's chest, his arms still wrapped around her. She could feel his heart beat against her back, steady and strong. "That was convincing," she said softly. "Maybe too convincing," he replied. But he didn't let go. They stayed like that for a moment longer than necessary, both pretending it was still part of the act. But when Catalina finally turned in his arms, the look in his eyes suggested that the line between performance and reality was beginning to blur. "We should probably talk about boundaries," she said, even though the last thing she wanted was to step away from him. "Probably," he agreed, but his hands came up to frame her face, thumbs brushing across her cheekbones. "Ground rules, limits, what's acceptable for the sake of the charade. Right? Ground rules?" Neither of them moved. Air between them crackled with tension that had nothing to do with their fake relationship and everything to do with the very real attraction that was building between them. Leonardo's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. Helena's name flashed on the screen. "A reality check," Catalina said, stepping back. Leonardo answered with practiced confusion. "Mother, no, I'm fine. Cats. Taking good care of me?" He paused, listening. "Dinner? Tonight? I don't know if I'm up for." Catalina watched his expression change, saw the moment he realized this wasn't a request. "Of course," he said finally. "We'll be there." He hung up and looked at Catalina with something that might have been panic. "Dinner tonight. A state. She wants to get to know you better." Catalina felt her stomach drop. "I don't have anything appropriate to wear to dinner at an estate." "We'll figure it out," Leonardo said. "But Kat, you need to know, this isn't just dinner. This is Helena's interrogation. She's going to try to break you." "Then I guess it's a good thing I don't break easily," Catalina replied, even though her hands were shaking, as the afternoon sun slanted through her window. They began planning for battle. Neither of them realized that somewhere across the city, Thomas Mitchell was already making phone calls about a certain graphic designer, whose story was about to be tested in ways they couldn't imagine. The Hayes family estate sprawled across 12 acres of prime Malibu real estate, like a monument to accumulated power. Catalina stared through the Uber window at the gates that required actual security clearance to open, wondering if she'd made a catastrophic mistake. She wore the only cocktail dress she owned, simple black number she'd bought for her college graduation 3 years ago. Next to Leonardo in his perfectly tailored suit, she felt like a sparrow trying to infiltrate a gathering of peacocks. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, and something in his voice made her believe it. "I look like I'm playing dress-up in my older sister's clothes. Good Helena expects you to be intimidated. If you look too polished, she'll know something's wrong." The front door opened before they could knock, revealing a man in a tuxedo who probably earned more than Catalina's annual salary just to answer doors. "Mr. Leonardo, Miss Rose? Mrs. Hayes is waiting in the blue salon." They were led through hallways lined with oil paintings worth more than most people's houses. Catalina tried not to gawk, but it was impossible. This wasn't just wealth. It was dynasty-level power made manifest in marble and mahogany. Helena waited in a room that could have housed Catalina's entire apartment twice over. She wore a cream silk dress that probably cost more than Catalina's car, and her smile had all the warmth of a shark's grin. She said, rising to embrace Leonardo with the kind of careful affection that avoided missing anyone's appearance. "How are you feeling?" Beta, Leonardo replied, his hand finding Catalina's and squeezing gently. "The familiar environment is helping." Helena's gaze shifted to Catalina with laser precision. "Miss Rose, how lovely to see you again. Trust, you found something appropriate to wear." The insult was wrapped in silk, but it was still an insult. Catalina lifted her chin. "I hope you don't mind that I didn't have time to go shopping. I've been a bit focused on making sure Leo was okay." "How devoted of you," Helena gestured toward a collection of chairs arranged around a coffee table that probably cost more than Catalina's student loans. "Please sit. I'm dying to learn more about the woman who captured my son's heart so completely." They settled into chairs that were beautiful and deeply uncomfortable. A servant appeared with champagne that Catalina was afraid to touch for fear of spilling it on something priceless. "So," Helena began, "Leonardo tells me you're a graphic designer. How fascinating. And you work at a coffee shop as well?" "Just part-time," Catalina replied. "It helps pay the bills while I build my client base." "And your family? What do they do?" Catalina felt Leonardo tense beside her. This was dangerous territory, and they both knew it. "My mother was a nurse. Passed away 2 years ago from cancer. Father left when I was 12, so it was just the two of us." "I'm sorry for your loss," Helena said, and for a moment, Her expression showed something that might have been genuine sympathy. It must have been difficult managing everything alone. It was. But she taught me to be independent, to work for what I want instead of expecting it to be handed to me. The barb hit its mark. Helena's smile grew sharper. How admirable. And you've never been married? No children? No. I've been focused on my career. What career would that be exactly? The coffee shop or the graphic design? Catalina felt heat rise in her cheeks, but before she could respond, Leonardo spoke up. Kat's work is incredible. She designed the entire visual identity for the Meridian Theater season. Sales are up 30% from last year. It was a lie, but it was delivered with such conviction that even Catalina almost believed it. The Meridian Theater, Helena repeated. I'm not familiar with it. It's in the Arts District, Catalina said. They focus on emerging playwrights and experimental work. How very bohemian. Helena's tone suggested this was not a compliment. And this is where you met Leonardo? At this theater? At the coffee shop? Like I told you yesterday. Helena's eyes glittered. Yes, of course. January 15th, wasn't it? A rainy day. Very romantic. Catalina nodded, wondering if this was a trap. That's interesting, Helena continued, because according to my calendar, Leonardo was in Singapore that entire week for the Chen Industries merger. He didn't return until the 23rd. The words hit Catalina like a physical blow, she felt. The blood drained from her face as she realized, their carefully constructed story had just collapsed. Leonardo's hand tightened on hers. Mother, I don't, Helena said sharply. Don't insult my intelligence further with more lies. Miss Rose, you've played your part admirably, but the performance is over. Catalina stared at the coffee table, her mind racing. Game over. Alina would expose them, Leonardo would be forced into his arranged marriage, and Catalina would go back to her tiny apartment and her mounting bills. Except now, she'd have the memory of what it felt like to pretend to be loved by someone extraordinary. Much? Helena asked calmly. Catalina looked up, confused. How much what? How much is he paying you for this charade? 'Cause whatever it is, I'll triple it to walk away right now. The insult cut deeper than any of the previous ones. Helena didn't just think Catalina was beneath her son, she thought. She was literally for sale. I'm not being paid, Catalina said quietly. Don't be ridiculous. No one does something this elaborate for free. Everyone has a price, Miss Rose. What's yours? Something cold and hard settled in Catalina's chest. Stood up slowly, her hands surprisingly steady. You want to know why I'm doing this? Fine. I'm doing it because... when? I saw you treating your son like a business asset instead of a human being who'd just been in a car accident. It reminded me of every person who ever looked at me and saw dollar signs instead of a person. Her voice gained strength as she continued. I'm doing it because he asked for help, and I've never been able to walk away from someone who needed help. And I'm doing it because watching you try to sell him off to the highest bidder makes me sick. Helena's expression was unreadable. How refreshingly honest. Though it doesn't change the fact that you've been lying to me. You're right, Catalina said. I have been lying. So has Leonardo, and so have you. The only difference is that my lies were meant to help someone, not control them. She turned to Leonardo, who was staring at her with something like, I'm sorry. I tried, but I can't do this anymore. You deserve better than an arranged marriage, but you also deserve better than having to lie about who you are. She started toward the door, but Helena's voice stopped her. Sit down, Miss Rose. I think I've embarrassed myself enough for one evening. Sit down. There was something in Helena's tone that commanded obedience. Catalina reluctantly returned to her chair. Helena studied her for a long moment, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. You're not what I expected. I'm exactly what you expected. Poor, undereducated, completely wrong for your son. No, Helena said slowly. What I expected was someone grasping and ambitious. Someone who saw Leonardo as a meal ticket. What I got was someone willing to sacrifice her own comfort to protect him from me. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Leonardo, Helena continued. Do you care for this woman? Leonardo looked at Catalina, and in that moment all pretense fell away. The fake amnesia, the elaborate charade, the carefully constructed lies. What remained was raw and honest and terrifying. "Yes," he said simply, "I do." Even though she's completely unsuitable? Even though she has nothing to offer the family business? Even though marrying her would be professional and social suicide? "Especially because of those things," Leonardo replied, his eyes never leaving Catalina's face. "She's the first person who's ever seen me as just Leonardo instead of the Hayes heir. She's brave and kind and genuine in a way I forgot was possible." Catalina felt tears prick her eyes. This wasn't part of the performance anymore. This was real, and it was happening in front of the one person who could destroy both of them. Helena was quiet for a long moment, studying them both with the calculating gaze of someone weighing options. "The amnesia is fake, of course," she said. "Finally, yes," Leonardo admitted. "And the relationship was originally fabricated to avoid the winter's engagement." "Yes. But it's not fabricated anymore, is it?" Leonardo and Catalina looked at each other, and Catalina saw her own realization reflected in his eyes. Somewhere between the hospital and this moment, between the lies and the truth, something real had taken root. "No," Leonardo said. "It's not." Catalina stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the manicured gardens. When she turned back, her expression was unreadable. "Priscilla Winters is lovely, but she's also ambitious in the worst possible way. She would use our family name to build her own empire, and she would never love you the way this woman clearly does." Catalina's heart stopped. "I never said I loved him." "You didn't have to. It's written all over your face every time you look at him, and more importantly, it's written all over his face when he looks at you." Helena moved back to her chair, settling herself with the grace of someone accustomed to holding court. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "You're going to continue this relationship, but you're going to do it properly, Catalina. You'll move into the guest house on the estate where you can be properly protected. You'll also be given a position in our marketing department, where your obvious talent can be put to better use than serving coffee." Catalina stared at her. "I don't understand. I'm giving you what you want, my son, free from an arranged marriage. But I'm doing it on my terms." "What terms?" Leonardo asked warily. "You'll announce your engagement at the company Christmas gala in 6 weeks, a proper engagement with a proper ring and a proper society wedding to follow. You'll also submit to a formal courtship period during which Catalina will be educated in the responsibilities that come with being part of this family." "You want to give me lessons in how to be rich?" Catalina asked incredulously. "I want to give you lessons in how to survive being rich," Helena corrected. "Because make no mistake, Miss Rose, the moment you announce your engagement to my son, you'll become a target. For fortune hunters, for social climbers, for business rivals who will use you to get to him. You need to know how to protect yourself and him." Leonardo shook his head. "Mother, we appreciate the gesture, but we can't ask Catalina to give up her life for this." "What life?" Helena asked bluntly. "Living paycheck to paycheck in a studio apartment, watching her talent go unrecognized because she doesn't have the right connections. I'm offering her the chance to have everything she's worked for and more." Catalina felt the weight of the offer settling on her shoulders. It was everything she'd dreamed of and everything she feared: security, recognition, love, but also scrutiny, expectation, and the loss of the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. "Why?" she asked Helena. "Why would you do this?" Helena's smile was small but genuine. "'Cause in 30 years of marriage, I've never seen my son look at anyone the way he looks at you. And because you're the first woman who's ever had the courage to tell me exactly what she thought of me." She stood again, signaling the end of the conversation. "You have 24 hours to decide. But understand this, both of you, if you choose this path, there's no going back. You'll be committing to each other and to this family for life." As they were escorted back to the front door, Catalina's mind reeled with the impossibility of what had just happened. She'd gone from fake girlfriend to real relationship to potential fiancé in the span of one dinner. "Are you okay?" Leonardo asked as they waited for their ride. "I don't know," Catalina said honestly. "Your mother just offered me everything I've ever wanted, and I don't know if I'm brave enough to take it." "You ran toward a car crash," Leonardo reminded her. "You stood up to Helena Hayes in her own house. You're the bravest person I know, This is different. This is choosing to crash my own life. Leonardo took her hands in his, turning her to face him fully. Or it's choosing to build a new one. With me, the sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. Is this what you want? Really? Not the fake relationship or the escape from your mother's? Plans, but this. Us. For real. I've never wanted anything more, he said, and kissed her softly under the California stars. As their car pulled up the circular drive, neither of them noticed Thomas Mitchell watching from an upstairs window. Phone pressed to his ear, and a very different kind of smile on his face. The phone call came at 3 a.m., 6 days before the company Christmas gala, where they were supposed to announce their engagement. Catalina jerked awake in the guest house that had become her temporary home, her heart hammering as she reached for her phone. Miss Rose. The voice was unfamiliar, professional, and cold. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the LAPD. We need you to come to the station immediately regarding Leonardo Hayes. The words hit her like ice water. What happened? Is he hurt? There's been an incident? That's all I can say over the phone. Catalina threw on clothes with shaking hands, her mind racing through terrible possibilities. Car accident? Business rivals. Something to do with the arranged marriage they'd disrupted? She called Leonardo's phone repeatedly as she drove through. Empty streets. But it went straight to voicemail. The police station was a fluorescent lit nightmare of institutional beige and desperation. Detective Chen was a small woman with sharp eyes who looked like she'd seen too much to be surprised by anything. Hey, Miss Rose. Thank you for coming. I need to ask you about your relationship with Leonardo Hayes. What kind of incident? Catalina demanded. Where is he? He's safe, Detective Chen said. But we have reason to believe he may have been involved in insurance fraud. The words didn't make sense. Insurance fraud. That's impossible. The car accident 6 weeks ago. We have evidence suggesting it was staged. Catalina's blood turned to liquid nitrogen. Somehow, someone had discovered the truth about Leonardo's fake accident. Her mind immediately went to Thomas Mitchell and his sharp eyes, his questions that had felt more like interrogations. I don't understand, she said, though she understood perfectly. We have a witness who claims Mr. Hayes deliberately crashed his vehicle to avoid a business obligation. The witness also claims you were part of the conspiracy. Who's the witness? Detective Chen slid a photograph across the table. Priscilla Winters smiled back at her, all blonde perfection and calculating eyes. Miss Winters came forward yesterday with information about Mr. Hayes's financial motivations for staging the accident. She also provided evidence of your relationship being fabricated for the purposes of defrauding his family. Catalina stared at the photo, understanding dawning like a poisonous sunrise. Priscilla wasn't just the scorned fiancé. She was the one pulling the strings, using the legal system to force Leonardo back into their arranged marriage. She's lying, Catalina said. Is she? Because we also have testimony from Thomas Mitchell, the Hayes family security consultant, confirming that your relationship appeared suddenly and conveniently after the accident. The trap was elegant and ruthless. Even if they could prove Leonardo's amnesia was fake, they couldn't prove the relationship was real without destroying the very foundation of their love story. Where is Leonardo? Catalina asked again. God, he's been arrested, charged with insurance fraud and filing false police reports. His bail hearing is tomorrow morning. I want to see him. That's not possible. But Miss Rose, I have an offer for you. Cooperate with our investigation. Testify about Mr. Hayes' premeditation in staging the accident, and will recommend immunity from prosecution. The offer hung in the air like a noose. Betray Leonardo to save herself, or go down with him for a crime that was partly her idea. I need to think about it, Catalina said. You have until tomorrow morning. Catalina walked out of the police station into the gray dawn, feeling like her world had been turned inside out. She drove to Moonbeam Cafe, needing the comfort of familiar surroundings. Jasmine was opening, her face creased with worry. Cat, I've been calling you all night. It's all over the news. They're saying Leonardo defrauded his insurance company, and that you helped him. Catalina collapsed into a chair, suddenly exhausted. It's complicated. Did he really fake the accident? Yes, but not for money. He was trying to escape an arranged marriage. And you helped him. I fell in love with him, Catalina said simply. Somewhere between the lies and the performance. It became real. Jasmine poured 2 cups of coffee and sat down across from her. So what are you going to do? Before Catalina could answer, the door chimed. Helena Hayes entered like a force of nature, her usual composure cracked but not broken. Rose, I assume you've heard. Your future daughter-in-law is very thorough, Catalina replied. Former future daughter-in-law, Helena corrected. Oh, I suspect that's about to change. She sat down uninvited, studying Catalina with those sharp eyes. Priscilla made me an offer. Drop the charges against Leonardo and agree to the original. Wedding arrangement, or watch him go to prison for fraud. You can't be considering it. I'm considering what's best for my son. Prison would destroy him. So would marrying someone who orchestrated his arrest. Helena's smile was grim. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't spent the last 6 hours trying to find another way out of this? There has to be something. Evidence that Priscilla is lying, proof that this is all revenge. The evidence is real, Catalina. My son did fake an accident. You did help him create a false identity. The only thing Priscilla lied about was the motivation, and motivation doesn't change the facts. Catalina felt tears burning her eyes. After everything they'd been through, everything they'd built together, was going to end with Leonardo in prison, or married to someone else. Unless Helena said quietly, you're willing to make a sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice? Take full responsibility. Claim you manipulated Leonardo while he was vulnerable from his injuries. Say you convinced him to go along with the fake amnesia to cover up your own deception. The proposal was breathtaking in its cruelty. Lena was asking her to destroy her own reputation and possibly face criminal charges to save Leonardo. I do that. He'll hate me forever. If you don't do it, he'll go to prison. And Priscilla will make sure he knows you could have prevented it. Catalina stared out the window at the street where she'd first seen Leonardo's car wrapped around a light pole. It felt like a lifetime ago. There's a third option, she said suddenly. What's that? We tell the truth. All of it. The real reason Leonardo staged the accident, the arranged marriage, Priscilla's revenge. Let the public decide who the real villain is. Helena's eyes widened. That would destroy the family's reputation. Our business relationships, our social standing, everything we've built. Better than letting your son sacrifice his freedom for it. For a long moment, Helena was silent. Then slowly she began to smile. You know what, Miss Rose? You're absolutely right. 6 hours later, Catalina stood outside the courthouse where Leonardo's bail hearing was taking place. News vans lined the street, reporters clutching microphones like weapons. Helena had called a press conference for immediately after the hearing, and word had leaked that she was planning to make explosive revelations about the Hayes family. Leonardo emerged from the courthouse looking haggard but determined. When Hayes saw Catalina, his face transformed with relief and love. I thought you'd run, he said, pulling her into his arms. Never, she whispered against his chest. We're in this together, remember? The press conference, he said. You're planning to do... You don't have to destroy yourself for me. I'm not destroying myself. I'm choosing what matters. She pulled back to look at him. Your freedom matters. Our love matters. Everything else is just noise. Helena appeared beside them, perfectly composed despite the chaos. Are you ready? Catalina looked at the sea of reporters, the cameras, the crowd of curious onlookers. In a few minutes, she would tell the world about their deception, their love, and the woman who had tried to destroy them both. She would probably face criminal charges. She would definitely face public scrutiny, unlike anything she'd ever experienced. But Leonardo's hand was warm in hers, and Helena was standing beside them like an ally instead of an enemy. And for the first time in weeks, Catalina felt like they had a chance. I'm ready, she said. The press conference was everything Catalina had expected, and nothing she could have prepared for. Helena spoke first, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being heard. She detailed the arranged marriage, Priscilla's ultimatum, and the events that led to Leonardo's desperate plan. Then Catalina took the podium. Her voice steady despite her racing heart. She told their story, the real one, the fake accident, the pretend amnesia, the relationship that became genuine love. She admitted her role in the deception but explained the circumstances that drove them to it. "We made mistakes," she said. Looking directly into the cameras, "We lied and were prepared to face the consequences of that. But we won't let someone use those mistakes to destroy the real love we found in the process." The questions came like bullets, sharp and relentless. But Catalina answered them all, her chin high, her hand never leaving Leonardo's. The fallout was immediate and severe. Criminal charges, social media storms, business relationships, strained to the breaking point. But it was also strangely liberating. The first time in his life, Leonardo was living completely authentically. And Catalina was standing beside him as his equal partner rather than his hidden secret. 3 months later, they were married in a small ceremony at Moonbeam Café, surrounded by friends who had chosen to stand by them through the scandal. Helena officiated, having been ordained online specifically for the occasion. It wasn't the society wedding she had once planned, but it was real in a way that no arranged marriage could ever be. "You know," Leonardo said as they danced to music from Jasmine's phone, "this isn't how I imagined my life would turn out. Better or worse?" Catalina asked. "Infinitely better," he said, spinning her around the small space between tables. "Though I never did get that amnesia treatment." "That's okay," Catalina laughed. "I prefer you with your memory intact. All of it, even the parts that got us into trouble." Outside, photographers still occasionally lingered, hoping for a shot of the couple who had scandalized high society. But inside the cafe, surrounded by the smell of coffee and the warmth of chosen family, they had everything they needed. The criminal charges were eventually dropped when Priscilla's scheme was fully exposed. Helena's business empire survived the scandal, smaller but stronger. And Catalina's graphic design firm, launched with Helena as her first major client, became one of the most sought-after creative agencies in California, but none of that mattered. As much as the moment each morning when Leonardo woke up in their small apartment above the cafe and remembered that he had chosen this life, chosen this woman, chosen authenticity over expectation. "I love you," he whispered against her hair as the last song faded. "I love you too," she whispered back. For real this time, and in the end, that was the only truth that mattered. Asterisk, comment below. Which part shocked you the most? Team Helena or Team Priscilla? Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to, if this story gave you all the feels, subscribe. For more addictive love stories, share with someone who needs a good cry hit. The bell for notifications on new uploads, asterisk. Thank you for watching. Your support means everything to us. The end.